Hello there, and welcome to this episode of the Op-Ed Experts podcast. My name is Francis Ayieko, and I help professionals, executives, and changemakers write powerful op-eds that not only get published, but influence public discourse. Today's episode is for anyone who has ever written an op-ed or wants to. Maybe you have tried to write an op-ed and it never got published, or you have been thinking about sharing your voice and don't know where to start. Well, you're in the right place because I'm breaking down the 5 biggest mistakes professionals make when writing op-eds, and more importantly, how to fix them. Let's dive in. So I'm going to go through these 5 biggest mistakes one by one. Then at the end of it all, I'll do a recap and see exactly where you lie and what exactly is your area of need. So mistake number one that professionals, executives who try their hands in op-ed writing make is starting with a vague or weak idea. Most people who write or want to write op-eds normally try to start with a broad topic. It could be something like, I want to write about climate change, or I want to write on corruption. You know, that is important, but then it's not an argument. So the secret normally is that you pick a topic and then focus on a certain aspect of it, just one aspect of it that you think is going to be of interest to the reader. And the best way to do that is to just nail it. That becomes your theme. You nail it in one short sentence that or statement that tell us exactly what you want to write about. So you don't write broadly. When you take a broad topic, then will not know exactly what your theme is or what you want to focus on, and therefore editors and readers will get lost, because most of the time what editors and readers are looking for are sharp, clear, and fresh take on a topic. And you need to ask yourself, what exactly am I saying that is new, urgent, or useful? Because to be honest, there's no topic that has never been written about under the sun. There's nothing new under the sun. You won't invent a new topic that has never been written about. But those old topics become new if you provide a fresh approach. And that approach is what we call your theme or your focus. So it's normally best to summarize what you want to write on in something called a focus statement. So it could be something like, let's say you're writing about the current health debate in Kenya, and there's something we call SHA. So you can say something like, Kenya's failure to fund public hospitals is the real reason why SHA health reforms will not succeed or will fail. So you see how clear that is. You need to come up with a clear aspect of a broader topic. So don't write broadly. When you write broadly, then you are not communicating. We don't know exactly what your theme is. The theme here is most of the time what we call an angle. What is your angle? And the best way to get an angle is to look at a broad topic. If it's a debate that is going on, look at the gaps. What are people not writing about, which you think is important? So bring something new to the discourse that is going on a broad topic, and that becomes your theme. So don't write broadly, don't approach a topic broadly, just be specific. The more specific you are, the better, because you'll be conveying a message about a certain aspect of that topic. It's what we call an angle. And an angle, someone described an angle just the other day. It's you can call it a thesis, but someone described it as a problem statement. You remember those days when we were in college and you were writing term papers? So what your focus was, I mean, the topic you chose to write on uh, is usually called a problem statement. So what problem are you addressing with your story? So make sure it's specific, make sure it's fresh, make sure it's focused, and make sure it's interesting enough. So mistake number one, starting with a vague or weak idea. Make sure that your idea is very unique and very focused and very specific. Mistake number two, targeting the wrong publication or audience with your story. Um, if you want to be an effective op-ed writer, you need, first of all, to do a bit of background research where you read the publication you want to write for. So that will help you to know a few things about that publication. You'll know the kind of stories they write. You'll have a rough idea of the audience that publication is targeting. You'll know even the voice in which they write, that tone. How do they angle their stories, and how do they write those stories? The other thing you'll be able to know, just to notice, you don't even need to ask anyone, but just reading regularly, you'll notice even the story lengths. So for op-ed pages, we normally have different story lengths. It depends on the publication itself. Some publications have clearly stated how long the op-ed should be. So when you are submitting your story, you ought to know roughly how many words you are required to write. Because if you overwrite, if you write too long, then your story is likely to be rejected, because editors don't want to be the ones who are shortening a very long story into the number of words they want. So you need to have an idea of who the publication is targeting, what the audience is, and also little details such as story length, such as the voice, the tone in which they write, and things like that. But you need to know exactly what readers, the kind of readers or the kind of audience they are targeting. That's as far as mistake number two is concerned. And that is very, very important, because publications don't exist in a vacuum. They exist to serve readers. So those readers, this is a way editors perceive the readers they are targeting. So any writer must, as a matter of fact, have a rough idea of who the publication is serving, so that you target your story, you slant your story, you write your story in such a way that readers will be served. The readers that the editors have in mind will be served well. That professionals who try to write op-eds make, and at the end of the day, they find it difficult to get published. This one is a common one, and I hope you can guess, because we are talking about professionals here. Most professionals write their stories like an academic paper. Let me just summarize it as use of jargon. And use of jargon can also be described as use of insider language. That is normally a big mistake, because what it fails to recognize is that opinion articles are actually targeted at the general public. So you are not writing for your peers. You are not writing for people within your profession who understands the shorthands, the language you use there. You are right. This article, opinion articles, are supposed to be read by the general public. Can I just say an average member of the public? And the goal normally is to pass across information. And you need to pass across this information using the simplest language possible. So even if you have to use maybe a few words that are used within your profession, make sure you simplify them. Don't use jargon. Jargon sometimes is described as industry mother tongue. So be as simple as possible when writing. Write as though you are having a table conversation. A conversation across the table with someone. So, as I said earlier, I help professionals and executives write powerful op-eds. So one of the things I teach is how they can simplify their language. And we normally summarize it as, which we encourage our students to do, to use when writing op-eds, they should use living room language instead of classroom language. So classroom language is the jargon. Living room language is the ordinary, simple, everyday language. So make sure you always have in mind the general public, because that's the person you are writing for. You are not writing for your peers. If you are writing maybe for a journal, it would be understandable because journals are normally read generally by people within the same profession, people who understand the language. So if you're a medical doctor, don't use hard medical terms. And whenever you have to use a medical term, don't assume everybody understands that. Only your peers understand that. So translate it. Look for a way of putting it, of relaying the same message, even if you are to describe, using the simplest language that can be understood by everyone who reads maybe a newspaper. One thing you need to remember here is that there's normally the temptation to show off when we are writing, to show how much we know. That is not the goal of op-ed writing. The goal, as I said, is to pass across information and or a message. And you've got to do this in the simplest way, or you're using the simplest language possible. So you are not really writing to impress. Maybe your professor, you are actually writing to influence a general audience. So as long as you can remember the purpose of writing, then you will endeavor to use the simplest language possible. So how do you fix this, which I've already alluded to? Use simple, punchy language. Just imagining that you're explaining your argument to a sharp 17-year-old or a curious friend. By the way, how do we speak with our friends, no matter what our professions are? How do you have a conversation with a friend who is not necessarily from your profession, or a relative who definitely is not from your profession? We talk with them ordinarily, using ordinary language. So that's how you need to write your op-eds. Because if you use jargon, even the editor will not understand what you're talking about. Yet the purpose is to make people understand so that you can influence them. If they understand your argument, chances are very high that you are going to influence them. So try to use things like analogies, using examples, everyday examples, or even when writing, use short paragraphs and things like that. So that's how to solve this issue of use of jargon. And it can really stand in the way. Jargon can really stand in the way of effective communication. Remember, the bottom line is you want to communicate and communicate effectively. You want to pass across a message. And this never happens if you don't remember that the majority of those you're writing for, or the majority of those who will read your story, do not understand many things about your profession, including the language itself. Let's go to point number 4, the mistake number 4, that professionals who try to write op-eds make. Mistake number 4. So many writers bearing the lead, somewhere in the story. I know I might also be talking, I might also be using that. Not everybody understands what a lead is. So a lead is the opening paragraph or statement of your story, how you start the story. Sometimes it's called the intro or the introduction. How do you enter the story? How do you start the story? So that's the lead. And the lead's work is to bring in or to interest readers in the story. So usually, many people who try to write op-eds don't go straight to their main point in the lead. They start somewhere very far. It's normally called throat clearing. So some people have the tendency of giving a background first before they tell us exactly what message is. What story do you want to tell? What is the theme of your story? So that theme should be captured right from the word go. It could be captured in the first sentence or the first 2 sentences. Or if you delay it, you can delay it maybe up to 3, the third statement or third sentence, but it should not go beyond the third sentence. So don't hide your main argument deep in the story. It should come as early as possible so that you, right from the word go, you engage with the editor and you engage with the reader. We know exactly what story you want to tell. Editors don't have the time to try to figure out what you are trying to say if you don't give it to them early enough. They actually want clarity in the first 2 to 3 paragraphs. In the first 2 to 3 paragraphs, they should have an idea of what this story is about. Where are we going with this? Normally, that's what they are curious about. And in a day, editors of leading newspapers in Kenya, like Nation, Standard, receive so many opinion articles. And when they're deciding what to use and what not to use, they don't go through all those stories. When they are trying to, try to find out which story they can use, they don't read a whole article. They just read the first few paragraphs, maybe the first 3 paragraphs, to get an idea of what the story is about and see if there is something they might be interested in. So the earlier you give an indication of what your story is about, the better. And that should happen in the lead, in the opening paragraph or opening paragraphs of your story. Don't start by, narrating a long story. Then later you tell us, by the way, this story is about this and that. Go straight to the point you want to make, and you will easily engage the editors and the readers at the end of the day. So put your central message up front. And that will make sure that your story stands a high chance of getting published. The last mistake number 5, that professionals make, and sometimes they might not know it, and this is a big one. The sooner you master this, the better for you, because it's a very important point, a very important consideration when editors are deciding which stories to use and which ones not to use. It has got to do with the timeliness of your story idea. So the mistake here is not tying the op-ed to a timely hook or to something that is current. So when you are writing an op-ed, the definition of an op-ed is as to encompass the timeliness. The question that mostly editors ask, and it's a challenging question, is why now? Why are you writing about this thing now? So you always need to tie your idea to something that is timely. You should peg your op-ed to something in the news. You can also peg it to a date. You can also peg it to a breaking story or something trendy. At least you should justify why you are writing about this issue now and not 3 months ago or 6 months to come. Timeliness is important. People want to read about something that is happening now because they are looking for answers to issues or problems or challenges that are happening now. So now is important. Make sure that your idea is topical. And as I've said, topicality of an idea is given by the news, maybe the date. If something is happening, there's a date that something big is going to happen. So that makes it, newsworthy now, or something that is trendy or trending, or you can peg it to a breaking story. Because if your piece lacks urgency, editors won't see why they must run it now. So the operative word is now. Why now? How do you fix this? Link your op-ed to a current debate, policy change, International Day. For example, I think it's today. Today, June the 6th, is World Environment Day. So you can write a story about environment to coincide with World Environment Day, or an event, or even a recent speech. But the thing is, make sure what you're writing about is now. It has got to do with the now. It's topical, it's current, it's about now. So if you don't link it, your idea to something current, if you don't tie it to something current, something topical, then most likely editors will not care, because they will ask, okay, why are you writing about this now? So there you have it. Those are the 5 biggest mistakes professionals make when writing stories or op-eds. And we have also talked about how to fix them. So can I just do a recap? I've said that don't start with a vague idea. Start with a sharp argument. So your argument should be very sharp. Your angle should be very sharp. It should be focused, and it should be specific. And if I may add, something interesting, because people would like to read about something interesting or insightful. 2, tailor your op-ed to the publication and its audience. So always have in mind who your reader is, and your reader is the reader of the publication you are writing for. So tailor your story to suit their needs, and you get to know about the audience, not necessarily by asking, but reading that publication analytically to understand the language they use. That will give you a rough idea of who they are targeting. Also, number 3, we have said that you need to keep it clear, conversational, and free of jargon. So get rid of jargon, use everyday language. 4, we have said that you need to get to your point very fast, very, very quickly. Don't bury your lead uh, somewhere in the body of the story. Give us an idea of what you're talking about right from the get-go. And finally, tie your piece to something happening right now. Timeliness, or being current, or being topical. Write on topical things and you won't go wrong. Especially if you do a good job in putting your piece together and doing a good research. I found you. I hope you found this useful. And if you want to go deeper, I just want to let you know that I offer an opinion writing course that helps professionals like you write op-eds that get published and get noticed. You can also follow me on Facebook, Francis Ayieko, or visit our website to learn more. Our website is www.opedhub.com. So thanks for listening. And until next time, keep writing and keep leading. Thank you.